Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture on why VMware Cloud Solutions are game changers. In this particular lecture, we are going to have a comparative study between a traditional data center versus cloud solution offered by VMware, a product such as VMware Cloud on AWS, other hyperscaler services such as Google Cloud VMware Engine, Azure VMware Solution, Google Cloud VMware Solution. In this particular lecture, we are going to understand and going to have a comparative study between how total cost of ownership, so-called TCO, get significantly reduced when hosting our application on traditional data center versus hosting these applications on modern cloud SDDC. So let's go and get started and have a deeper understanding between these two solutions, and let's understand why VMware Cloud Solutions are better than hosting these applications on traditional data center. So that's the topic, on-prem versus cloud, a very hot topic in today's era where we are talking about migrations. So the very first criteria when we talk about the total cost ownership, let's talk about the servers. Now, as you know that we always need a compute power for running our applications. On the on-prem, from the costing perspective, it could be X number of dollars. But when we look at the VMware Cloud solutions, this cost is dramatically increased. And there is a certain reason behind that. The servers which are running in VMware Cloud on AWS offering, Google Cloud VMware Engine offering, or maybe Azure VMware Solution offering, these servers are having a high compute memory and resources. That is the reason these servers which are being presented as a part of this cloud solution offering could be much expensive than servers which gets deployed in on-prem data center. So from the cost perspective of that hardware, a cloud solution could be much expensive than on-prem. But this story does not get end here. Let's move on to the next section. VMware licenses. Now, if you are deploying a full-fledged VMware data center in your on-prem infrastructure, you might be knowing that you have saved your cost on buying those servers, but you need to invest money in buying vSphere licenses, buying NSX licenses, buying vSAN licenses, so forth and so on. So that's where you are going to spend money of your entire budget into a VMware licenses. Is that the same story in the cloud solutions? And the answer is no, because all these cloud solutions offered by VMware or the hyperscaler services, they have included these licenses as a part of their offering. That's the reason in these cloud solutions offering by VMware, we do not need to pay additional amount or additional cost for considering VMware product licenses. It's included into that service itself. The next is networking. Now, when we are deploying our data center in our traditional hardware, traditional infrastructure, we need to lay down cables, switches, routers, firewall, and all sort of LAN and WAN devices for providing all set of connectivities. And that's where we again need to invest our money on building up and laying down this entire networking infrastructure for applications to be run up and running and providing required set of connectivity. What about cloud solutions? Again, cloud solutions, we do not need to spend additional amount in laying out this networking infrastructure because these cloud solutions are already having an inbuilt networking to give you end-to-end connectivity between the applications running within the cloud-based SDDC or across different SDDC. That's networking services, networking connectivity is already included in the cloud solutions offering itself. So we don't need to lay down all the switches, routers, and maintaining that infrastructure. The next is storage, providing arrays and the storage solutions. Again, when we are talking about building up on-prem infrastructure, we need to have a bulky, heavy storage for meeting our storage requirement. And again, we need to invest further on buying those expensive storages and laying out the entire storage network to provide to meet the storage requirements of our applications. In the cloud solutions, again, we don't need to pay any additional cost for these storage solutions because these storage solutions, again, such as vSAN, is already integrated as a part of VMware Cloud Solution offering. The next is facilities. When we talk about on-prem, we need to have a racks, we need to have a power, we need to have a cooling generators, battery backups. Everything has to be maintained by the on-prem infrastructure team, and they have to take care of all these facilities right there to maintain their application uptime. And for that, to get that kind of SLA, we need to invest heavily in building up such a resilient infrastructure and setting up all required facilities. In the VMware Cloud Solution offerings or hyperscaler services, we do not need to bother about it. If it's a Google Cloud VMware engine, Google is actually providing all these infrastructure services to us. Google is responsible for taking care of all the racking, power cabling. Similarly, for the VMware Cloud on AWS, since the entire VMware SDDC solution is running on AWS infrastructure, AWS is taking care of giving us best of the best facilities for hosting our applications with no downtime. So again, we do not need to get involved in laying out and taking care of these facilities. The next point, infrastructure monitoring and alerting. Again, if we are talking about our on-prem data center, yes, we need to have a process in place. We need to have an automation in place which actually go and polls your hardware health, and then basically it monitors the entire infrastructure health and generate the alarms in a timely manner. And for that, again, to have that kind of process in place, we need to further invest in bringing up that kind of infrastructure and bringing up such kind of automated process to make our environment more resilient. In the VMware Cloud Solutions, again, the infrastructure monitoring and alarms is not something we really need to bother about it, because this infrastructure monitoring and alarming or alerting is an inbuilt capabilities of underlying cloud providers. Compliance certifications. If we are coming from a banking or any financial institutions, for holding that data, we need to have a clearance of all the regulatory compliance and certifications. And that's where, as an on-prem infrastructure, since we are hosting data in our on-prem data center, we need to work on getting those certifications and the comply and making sure that our on-prem data center is meeting all the compliance and regulatory requirements. Again, when we hosting our applications on VMware Cloud Solutions, we really do not need to bother about it. VMware Cloud Solutions are actually takes care of all the regulatory compliance and certifications, and similarly all the cloud providers already having all those required certifications which assure the data integrity. So again, we do not need to invest in getting those certifications. Another important factor to be look at it is hardware replacement and service contract. Now, when we talk about our on-prem data center, we know that if no matter what hardware we are using it, the lifespan of that particular hardware would be around 3 years. Now, every 3 years, we need to replace our hardwares. We need to renew our service contracts, and we need to involve our vendors and partners in refreshing the entire hardware. And we know that it takes a significant effort, not in terms of only money, but it also takes a significant effort in driving that entire hardware replacement drives and the process, which is again a very time consuming, and a tremendous effort is required to get this entire process in place and renewing the hardware, renewing the service contracts. But in the VMware Cloud Solutions offering, again, the hardware replacement service contract is not something we as a customer need to bother about it. The VMware has an automated VMware Cloud Solution offering, and these hyperscaler services will have has a process in place, and they takes care of the hardware replacement service contracts on behalf of the offering, what the service they are offering to us. So as an application owner, as a business owner, I really do not need to bother about renewing the hardware contracts or renewing those hardware replacement every 3 years. Another important factor to look at it, labor to troubleshoot and remediate hardware fault. Now, if we are the one who is actually owning that entire infrastructure, then we are the one who has to go and troubleshoot any issue which have been occurred on our infrastructure. It could be hardware related issues, it could be storage related issues, it could be network related issues. And as a owner of entire on-prem infrastructure, we need to go and troubleshoot that issue. We need to go and remediate those hardware failures or any kind of infrastructure failure we come across in our infrastructure. And that's where, again, as an organization, I need to invest huge amount of money in getting this so getting this troubleshooting and hardware fault remediation process in place. But in the VMware Cloud Solutions, again, it's an infrastructure which is being provided as a service by underlying public cloud providers and the VMware as a joint partnership. So we as an application owner, we as a business owner, we really do not need to bother about the troubleshooting and remediating the hardware fault. Remediating hardware fault is again being taken care by these solutions, VMware Cloud Solutions or the underlying cloud providers. The last but not least, the labor to test and upgrade infrastructure. I'm sure that everyone can relate with this particular topic as well, where we as an infrastructure admin spent a humongous amount of time and efforts, and sometimes the entire weekend goes into driving this upgrade activities. We have an older version of some software, we need to upgrade it, and that's what we do it during the off peak hours, and sometimes the entire weekend is being utilized for conducting these kind of upgrade and maintenance activities. And because it requires a labor, it requires engineers to get involved in doing the entire upgrade activities, it again costs a lot into the total cost of ownership, right? So as an on-prem infrastructure owner, we need to invest heavily in having again the entire upgrade infrastructure process in place to make sure that we always running our application on the latest hardware, latest version of the required softwares. Does it really require to do it in the cloud solutions? No. As a customer, as an application owner, as a business owner, I do not really need to bother about the underlying upgrade infrastructure or upgrading the underlying infrastructure. Upgrading vSphere, NSX, vSAN, HCX is not something as a customer, as a business owner, we really need to bother about it. VMware Cloud Solutions and hyperscaler solutions are really gives this advantage where these upgrading the infrastructure, validating that infrastructure is everything is being handled by these cloud solutions, VMware Cloud Solution offering, or maybe the underlying cloud providers. As a business owner, we just need to bother about running our application, nothing else. We do not need to spend our weekends and the humongous effort on driving these upgrade activities, where as a business owner, we can start investing more into the innovation and on the customer services. So these are the comparative study. You could see that a VMware Cloud, why VMware Cloud Solutions are going to be the game changer as compared to when we compare on-prem activities and the on-prem infrastructure challenges which can easily overcome by VMware Cloud Solutions. Now, if you look at this diagram, on the x-axis we have a time, on the y-axis we have a on-premises infrastructure and VMware Cloud Solution or hyperscaler, any of the hyperscaler solution. Now, In the VMware Cloud solution, let's say you are running any application on a host which is being hosted on underlying any of the cloud provider, or maybe we are running our application. For example, let's say we are running our application on Google Cloud VMware Engine. In that scenario, if the underlying host failed, the adding a host, first of all, is not a job of us as application owner. The Google underlying platform will actually go and figure it out. There is a remediation failure, there is a hardware fault in that particular host, and within 30 minutes, the new host would be added to the cluster for hosting that particular application. So if you see the value, what the cloud solution is bringing it here is not about adding a new host. It's about that time. Within 30 minutes, we have a new host added to our existing cluster, and our application is right there to make utilization of that particular newly added host. That's the power what this solution gives us. Now let's try to compare this particular example with the on-prem challenges. So let's take the example, what if we have a hardware remediation with same day support? Maybe we are in the premium, we are having a premium support. If any hardware issue happens, we have a support with the same day. But though let's say we have a support on the same day to remediate that hardware fault, again we need to spend that person. The hardware expert would be coming to the site, he would be troubleshooting that issue, he would be repairing that particular hardware, right? Isn't it? Now, even if we take the best case, getting that hardware up and running, or getting that failed faulty hardware to be replaced or up and running, can take minimum 2 hours. That's the best case what we are taking it up. Now let's go back to the another worst case scenario. What if we don't have a hardware remediation with the same day support? Maybe we don't have that premium support, and the hardware fails on that specific day, and we raise a request to the hardware team. The guy would be coming, he might be shipping a new hardware, he might be doing all this cabling, racking for that particular hardware, he might be running some kind of hardware test to make sure that this hardware is capable enough to run our applications. And once all this installation, test configuration, everything is done, then this hardware can be pushed to the production to host our impacted application. But even if we do a best case scenario, this situation, in this particular situation, our application can have at least 16 hours of downtime, which means that we would require less than 16 hours, or maybe like close to 16 hours, just to get this issue to be fixed, which is a significant difference, where in the cloud we just have a 30 minutes of window to remediate that failed hardware and get it replaced by the fully functional hardware, and our application is up and running within 30 minutes. Whereas we have a remediation with the same day support, we take the best case scenario, still we require 2 hours of downtime. We don't have a same day support for that particular hardware remediation. In that case, the SLA or the downtime might increase from 2 hours to 16 hours. And let's look at that. The another scenario, what if the hardware itself is gone? What if the motherboard itself is crashed and we don't have any additional hardware present in our same site where this fault has happened? In that scenario, just imagine we need to get a new host, and for that we need to order a new hardware. It has to be clear by the custom, has to be present to our site. Then we need to do the racking, power, cabling, all the provisioning, doing the right side of storage connectivity, doing the right side of network connectivity, and all these sort of connectivity we need to do before hosting our applications right there on that newly added hardware. And in those worst case scenario, it might take up 30 days. Now where we are talking about 30 minutes, and now look at the on-prem, it might take 30 days. Isn't it's a significant difference? When we are entering into the era of digital transformation, where it's not the era where we used to ship our software or application once in a month, once in a year, or maybe twice in a year. This is the time where every single organization is trying to have a faster time to market. They want to launch their applications not once in a year or maybe once in a 6 months. They want to ship or update their applications once in a 2 weeks. In those scenarios, do we really think having a 30 days of downtime just to get this hardware to be replaced is acceptable? My answer is no. Gone are those days. Now, let's try to conclude the another factor, like one of the factor is availability. So when we talk about availability in the on-prem infrastructure, as of now, how do we handle that availability to handle the scenario which we discussed in the just previous where the hardware was faulty? To handle those scenario, we actually provision excess N plus hardware due to uncertainty in the hardware availability and facility. That's what we do, right? If I have a 50 servers which is required to run all of my applications, I will deploy an additional 10 to 15 servers to handle those kind of scenarios, which means that we are going to provision additional number of hardware just to handle those hardware faults unavailability in the environment. In the VMware Cloud solutions, there is no required of there is no need of having a additional hardware to be provisioned. This cloud solution offering or hyperscaler offering has an inbuilt mechanism to give you a zero touch automated host remediation. The moment the host failed, that infrastructure, that particular service by VMware will take care of putting that hardware, adding a new hardware to the infrastructure and pushing it and adding it to the existing cluster. And that's again, it does not require any manual intervention. Everything is automated. The next thing, capacity, like as we discussed, in the on-prem data center will always have a excess provisioning due to the uncertainties scenarios or maybe to provide the agility to support business initiatives. Now there is a new requirement coming from the business. We can't say that we don't have a hardware and any spare hardware available in our infrastructure, right? To support that agility, to support that flexibility, to support those new initiatives, we always need to have a spare capacity to host those new workloads or new applications which are ready to go into production. And that's where we always have a excessive provisioning of the hardware in the on-prem. In the cloud solutions, again, we do not need to have a excessive provisioning of our hardware to get this kind of agility and business initiatives. VMware Cloud Solutions in hyperscalers gives us just-in-time capacity availability to support our new workloads. For example, let's say I'm running a 3-node cluster on VMware Cloud on AWS solution, and I feel it like I need to add 2 more hosts to support a new business initiatives. I just need to do one click and it just take maximum 10 to 15 minutes and adding that host to our existing cluster. That's the power of this particular solution where we don't need to have a provisioning or we don't need to have access provisioning or over provisioning of the hardware and most of the hardware is sitting idle. It's about just in time capacity is one of the key factor of VMware Cloud Solution offering. And last but not least, as we discussed, the life cycle of an application. In the on-prem environment, we need to take care of end-to-end lifecycle management of our application. We need to take care of our OS upgrades. We need to take care of our infrastructure upgrades. We need to take care of every single software upgrades which is required for that application to function in a smoother way. And for that, we need to have additional hardware in place. But in the VMware Cloud solution, there is a automated rolling upgrade which does not impact availability or capacity, which means that if I'm paying the price for 3 servers, that's what VMware would be charging for me. I'm trying to upgrade, VMware is trying to upgrade the infrastructure, they are going to have an additional host added to the cluster for giving a support of automated rolling upgrade. But we as a customer not going to pay any additional fees for that additional host which is being added by VMware to the existing cluster to support the upgrade or regular update activity. So that's the power of VMware Cloud Solutions. Now, as you could see that the point what we have discussed, you could see that the on-prem data center has its own set of challenges, and I think we have witnessing all these challenges for past 20 years, 30 years. But with this VMware Cloud solutions offering, such as VMware Cloud on AWS or hyperscaler services such as Google Cloud VMware Engine, Azure VMware solutions are really helping us out in elevating all this traditional operational and maintenance challenges and reducing the cost of running our application dramatically with these kind of offerings. We hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thanks for your time. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.